This is the order you should upgrade your Mighty Doom stuff in so you can do the best you can when you're playing. I'll be explaining the difference between farm and push, and I'm going to start it off with something controversial, your ultimate weapon. So this is a BFG, the Unmaker, Chainsaw, Crucible, whatever. Is it critical? Is it high? Is it medium? Or is it low priority? Your ultimate, you'd think probably would be somewhere around high, right? Because it's so damaging, even critical, it's so powerful that you can wipe out whole arenas with it. Actually, no, it is not medium, it is even low. This is because when you're farming or pushing, the meta seems to be pushing in the direction that you're not focusing on the ultimates, which you use 4 to 6-ish times a battle, especially the BFG. You could have those points allocated so much differently to your primary, your secondary, or some of your armor. We'll explain all that in a second, but those huge bursts are nice, but when you're farming or pushing and you're limited on your resources, you need to allocate those points elsewhere, and for that reason, the BFG and Ultimate gets a low placement. So let's go to the primary. This is your main gun. Will it be low because you want to focus on other stuff, medium, high, or critical? Well, this is your main damage dealer and something that you need to rely on literally every single room for the vast majority of the time that you're using it, as you see in my video on the right. So for that reason, we're going to put the primary as critical because you use it every room. It's your main source of damage. You have to upgrade it so much along the way. You can't go wrong. Critical is the way for your primary weapon. Alright, so let's take a look at the secondary. Of course, the Gauss is the way to go, for me at least. This is something that is low. I have seen people place it on low as level 1 as they farm because they use their points elsewhere and they don't really use the secondary much. Maybe to trigger their 5-second UAC arbor bonus for their perks that way. Maybe just they don't want to use it much, maybe just for the meat hook or the utility behind it. Me personally, when I'm farming, my recommendation always goes to critical. I run the UAC build with the Gold Slayer, so I blast off that Gauss cannon for some big damage, which carries over to my primary having super big damage as well, and having that Gauss blast is just so nice to have against bosses. It's so high damaging. It's almost 112,000 base damage for an epic that I saw from Reign of Warfare. I'm still working on mine. For that reason, critical is for your secondary. Your main 2 damage dealers, you gotta give them the points that they know, love, and deserve. This next one is a but. There is a catch to this one. That is your equipment launcher. So this thing, the points you put in, fires off at a certain time. Whenever you use it, each one has a little bit of a different time that they shoot off with. Acid launcher is really good, some of the others as well. Flame Belch is looking like it's decent here. When I was talking to Slig about this, he said that he was getting as much as a Gauss out of it per tick, which is really nice. Now this, you could say is critical because it's a damage dealer, or maybe high, because it's not like as heavy as your primary and your secondary. But then again, hey, we put ultimate down in low, so it's hard to tell what's going to happen, right? I'm going to say the equipment launcher goes in low, but if you want to get some extra damage in with something that shoots frequently, you got the coins, the points, all that stuff, you're comfortable with it, you want to do it for fun, go ahead and put some more into it if you want. I personally haven't messed with it that much. I keep it low, keep it level 1. Remember, if it's low priority, keep it level 1 so you get the benefit of wearing the equipment, you just don't stash all your points into it at the same time. Okay, so how are we going to upgrade our helmet and gauntlets? These say farm and push because the helmet, all the helmets, and all the gauntlets, everything have the same stats to them. The only difference is the passive ability, whether it's damage, critical, 5 seconds after shooting, all that is the same. So if you have it as level 1, you get those benefits. Now, we differentiate between farming and pushing with the armor because you want to build it differently. So let's say your helmet and gauntlets for farming. I have a picture of the helmet here. It's interchangeable for gauntlets, either way, just to make sure you know. When you're farming, your goal is to deal massive damage quickly so you can push through the level, get through all of your energy as quickly, efficiently, and safely as possible. So for that reason, you want high damage, but you also don't want to die too fast. A little bit of safety there, so we'll get to that in a second. So a helmet does damage, and that's great because you want that. When you're farming, well, this helmet or the gauntlets gives damage to every single thing that you use, especially valuable for chain guns because they have so many projectiles. Each of those projectiles is affected by the helmet as opposed to a Gauss cannon or a rocket launcher, which is a one and done, except for a couple of the upgrades, of course. So when you're farming, that extra damage, is it critical? Is it high? Is it medium? Or is it low? Well, for farming, I am placing it in, just kidding, it's in high. Extra damage, super nice to have to push through faster, harder, better, faster, stronger to get through those arenas. Now, what about the helmet and gauntlets for pushing? Now this is a bit of a tricky one because the helmet and gauntlets don't give you that much return on investment compared to some of the other things. Like if you had the choice between your primary weapon and your helmet, do your primary weapon, do your secondary, give those all the love you can, and then anything extra gets put over to the helmet and the gauntlets because they do add up. As armor gets stronger, it scales very rapidly. So if you have an epic helmet and rare gauntlets, put literally everything you can into the helmet, because having an 80 epic and a 1 rare or a 60 rare and a 1 uncommon is way better than trying to bring up that uncommon or the lower tier. It sounds crazy, but every single time I've been able to help someone with their build and I find this error that we can fix, it helps them out. They either get more stats or they get a lot of their coins back to reallocate elsewhere if that is the fit for what they're looking for. Or if they would just want to keep those stats there because they don't have enough tokens, that's fine too. It's whichever way you want. Coins, tokens, your pick. But when you're pushing, you need more survivability than when you have farming. Yes, the damage is good, but when the enemies hit hard, you need to survive. So for that reason, we're putting it in medium. It's important. You judge it accordingly. If you're like, hey, these enemies are too much of bullet sponges, I need to put a little more offense in, well then, you do that and you figure out what you need. But of course, if you're an epic dodger, then yeah, you can probably go a little bit less on the health department. So that's why I put it in medium, because it's more case dependent than farming. Farming, you have the goal, you know what you want. Pushing, you do too, but you have to kind of back and forth a little bit, see what you like. It's not as important to medium for me. Chest and boots for farming. Okay, this is important here because this is your health factor. Now remember, I just told you about that when you're farming, you want to get high damage, fast, efficiently, move through the arena. Theoretically, you'd think to put 1 into your chest and your boots so you get all that damage, all the coins, maybe put the extras in the chest and the boots, doesn't really matter, right? Well, while I have seen success with glass cannon builds, which are high damage but also high damage received, dealt and received, really, I've had a lot of success when farming Hell on Earth 2, the final chapter, by having a little bit of cushion in there. That allows me to get into the crowd of enemies, get very close for the DPS with my heavy cannon or across the arena, whatever, and not have to worry about dying as easily. So having that extra health buffer does go a long way. Even though your focus should be damaged, you don't want to also die in one hit or progress more slowly because you're scared of dying, and then you watch an ad that adds more time to it, and all of that. So for that reason, again, it is case by case basis. I'm going to put it as mid for farm, and you see the roles have reversed here, so I'm curious to see what the pushing armor will do here for health. Now, when you're pushing with this, it's very different. You are going against high damaging enemies who are also bullet sponges. It is a tug of war, a balance, but if I had to choose, I would have a high leveled primary and secondary, and then I would put a lot of points into this. But for where? What is the importance here? It is critical. Yes, if you're going into Hell on Earth 2 with 4,000 to 5,000 health, you're done in like 2 hits. It is massive. It is critically tough. These epic boots and chests give you 16,000-ish health when they're fully maxed by themselves. That keeps you alive so much better. And when you're fighting these tough enemies and bosses that take a long time to kill, you have human error, you have your nerves, you have all this stuff messing you up. You need to get that fight done quickly with damage, but also survive with the health. That is why they're critical, because you're taking heavy hits and you need that help. Now the Mini Slayer. Now the thing about the Mini Slayer is his upgrades tend to be a little weaker than his weapon and armor counterparts. What I mean by that, so if you're looking at it, you're like, I have 5,000 coins for my Slayer, I have 5,000 for my boots, I don't know which way to go. Well, it looks like the Slayer doesn't give as many good stat options as the boots do. Well, I'll go with the boots. Well, the Slayer gives health and damage, and at level 10 unlocks an ability that goes across all Slayers, whether that's more health, more damage, no matter what, and at level 80 he unlocks a second whenever that level comes out. So you have to be able to balance everything. It's really a balancing act, understanding like, hey, my Slayer's lagging behind, I need to pick him back up. Well, now my equipment's lagging behind too, that you want to be able to know where to upgrade and what matters, so you kind of edge your epic, your rare, a little more than everything else because it's that much better. You don't want to lag the Slayer behind. He is a good upgrade source. He is another piece of your equipment. So for that reason, he's not low, he's not critical. He's either high or medium. I'm going with high, because he is important, you need him, but just use accordingly as you get the Argent, and just spend your silver and your coins as you need. Now the Masteries, these you cannot choose what you're going to get, so that's what makes it a little tricky. Everybody doesn't like to get Invigorating Boon that heals you on going to a new level, but the difference that people miss is that that is a healing when you get a new ability in a level, meaning that you get 10% at max, so 10 upgrades in a level, 10% health is a full heal in the level. Well, of course, it skews earlier. If you get those upgrades in the earlier levels, you're not going to need it as much, but you can't pick your mastery nonetheless. They're still very important to do because they stack up very, very highly. And you know what? I was going to put this as high originally, maybe critical. You know, we're going to go high for now. I'm going to put it, I literally cannot decide. I'm going to need your help with this in the comments below. Let's just leave it as critical against my first judgment of high, and let me know what you think. Check out the build guide on the screen here to get help with your build. Come in the Discord. I'll help you out with tips. The community will help you out with tips and build advice. I am Austin. Thank you so much for watching.